Interesting. You know, she was marketing manager or director for Air Uganda. Air Uganda was owned by the Aga Khan. Most of its management operations, if you have worked with the Aga Khan companies, were handled in Paris. So if you're a marketing director in Kampala, you really handled very little. You do not have the eagle-eyes view of the business because it was headquartered in Paris and they handled most of the things there. So she was unable to gain sufficient marketing experience of an airline to write home about. So I need to correct that person who made that comment.
I also want to give information.
Then she's hired as commercial director of Uganda Airlines. She got fired. Why was she fired there? Jennifer owned a company called Abavato. She gave this company, Abavato, a contract without approval of the board, without competitive bidding. She gave her own company a contract, a retainer of $52,900 per month as a retainer. And then again, without approval of management and the board, she gave her own company a contract of $1.7 million to do branding and marketing for the company. When she had given these contracts, the Uganda Airlines hires a guy from Rwanda Air called Paul something. His surname is very complicated. He's from Chris's village, Kanungu there. He had been working with KPMG in Kampala, auditing Air Uganda, where she was working. When Air Uganda closed, KPMG sent her to KPMG Rwanda. KPMG Rwanda made him the auditor for Rwanda Air. After 6 years, I think, or 5 years working with Rwanda Air as an auditor, they hire him as a deputy CFO because they had a Muzungu CFO. When that Muzungu left, he takes over. And when Uganda Airlines was created, he came back home to Uganda. So that man was the first person to attempt to streamline the accounts of Uganda Airlines. He found that the Ugandan Airlines staff did not know how to collect revenue. You know, if you flew by Lufthansa or Kenya Airways and they dropped you in Nairobi, or Rwanda Air, they dropped you in Kigali, or Ethiopian Airways and they dropped you in Addis Ababa, and Uganda Airlines picked you from there. Uganda Airlines is supposed to bill Kenya Airways because they picked their passenger from Nairobi to Entebbe. They had not been billing. He creates a system. He goes to South Africa and hires a young lady, a Muslim girl who knew these things. She comes, and within the first 3 weeks of her reporting to work, she identifies $3.6 million and it collected. And in the first 3 months, she had collected about $3 million of that. They fought that girl and chased her away, and I will tell you why. So after she had given this, so when Paul tried to establish proper accounting, he came in conflict with her. The first thing was, she submitted an invoice of her own company, Abavata, worth $450,000. He said, prove the work you have done for us to pay this invoice. She could only produce proof. This is a contract she gave herself for $1.7 million, of which now she was billing $450,000 work done. She could only produce $174,000 of work done. He said, this is all I will pay, because you don't have evidence of the other work you have done of about $280,000. He refused to pay that. Then they were receiving these Airbus A330, 2 of them. They had a function. She spent 800 million shillings on it. She claimed to have 600 guests. Everybody who attended says there were about 100 guests there. So the accusation was she had spent 8 million shillings per guest. Even if you accepted a figure of 600, it was 1.3 million shillings per guest. But you served them only samosas. How can samosas cost? Please, this is very important for people to know. That guy needs to be. People think that she was a competent manager and honest person. I want to give a context of how she lives. So that is the second issue she has, that you are giving these contracts to your own company where you are personally a signatory. There are documents where she signed checks for Abavato. It is the one that has a retainer. It is the one that received the guests. It is the one that has this $1.7 million worth of a contract for branding. These issues are brought before the board, and she's fired by the board. She was friends with somebody I did not want to mention, and now went and started bad-mouthing management and the board who had fired her for her own corruption, and the president, without listening to the board itself, without getting proper information or intelligence on this lady, takes her advice and the security official whom she was working with and fires the board, fires the entire management. Some of them, like Malaya, was arrested. Others are taken to the IGG. Their careers are ruined. And then What the board had not yet been fired, the board decided to hire PricewaterhouseCoopers to, at a cost of 800 million shillings, to recruit a new CEO. In the process of recruiting a CEO, the president raised an instruction to the minister. I wish I had known earlier, I would have put it on the screen, saying, no, stop that process, hire this lady. So the president, he may have acted in good faith, believing in the intelligence he had been given. And that is how he comes to hire her. When she comes, she begins a vendetta, as I already explained, against anybody who had competence. Because after that, Paul left, she had a guy called Andrew Sekweyama. Andrew tried to establish proper accounts. Brilliant, brilliant accountant, CFO. She fired him. Then she had 2 acting CFOs. Finally, she hired a 5th person who is there right now. So in 4 years as CEO, she has had chief financial officers 5. So here is the question. I have already told you she has a problem with accounting. She had the problems with Paul because he was exposing her corruption. Doesn't it tell you why chief financial officers? Uganda Airlines, please, Ugandans, listen to me. Uganda Airlines, your good airline, does not have proper accounts. It's difficult to go to its books and say, these are the revenues of this company, these are the expenditures, and this is how it is performing. It's very difficult. The accounts are tangled because she likes it that way, so that you cannot establish what her financial shenanigans are.
Andrew, Honorable Mkitari, I'm going to come to you. Andrew, I want us to close that CEO conversation you brought. Grima Wake, the one you have recommended, you did it here, you've done it on X. Has he been appointed, and why? Why do you think he's going to succeed where Ephraim Bagenda failed, where Conwell failed, where, let's not talk about Jennifer, who you don't want to talk about. Why do you think he's going to pass this test?
So first of all, people misunderstood. My tweet is so clear. I said that it would be good for government of Uganda to hire Girma Wake. He was chairman of the board of Rwanda Air. He was CEO of
Ethiopian Airlines.
Actually had been a senior executive of Ethiopian Airlines.
Yes.
When Meles came in, he started interfering politically with the airline. He resigned and went to work with Air Arabia. I think Air Arabia. He became a top executive there. When Meles now realized that political interference in the airline, then the airline went heavily down. When it was collapsing, they called him back. You should read there's an interview of his that went viral. When they called him back, he gave conditions.
Yes.
And
who he will hire, where he'll buy flights from. And
Meles thanked him. He respected that. That man grew that airline back to its greatness where it is. So, but he's a 82-year-old man. I have personally talked to me a couple of times, and he's not interested in taking over Uganda Airlines. I want people to know that. Uganda government, my own advice to the people I talk to within the government is, we can hire him as a chairman of the board where he does not have a lot of work to do given his advanced age. Right? He doesn't have a lot of work to do as chairman to oversee the transition. Then the current Bakele, who is the current CEO of Ethiopian Airways, his contract ends in June. And I think under the terms of his contract, it cannot be renewed. We as Uganda can approach him to come and be the CEO, the current CEO of Ethiopian Airways, to come and be the CEO of Uganda. So if we have Girma as the chairman, we have Bakele as CEO, and we can bring other highly skilled people. My request is for them to work. They will need Ugandans to understand the local context, but they will need the personal intervention and protection of President Museveni. Because of their credentials, I am sure that President Museveni will listen to them. When he met with the president, they had a very good conversation. The president listened and was impressed by the wealth of experience this man was able to give. But he says, I'm old, I'm 82 years, I don't have much energy. So he can be chairman of the board, and we can drink from the well of his experience. Bekele is 64 years. He can be there for 5 years. With Uganda, we can put a Ugandan understudy deputy CEO who is Ugandan, who can learn. And we know that in 5 years, these people will help us put in place proper management systems. The president, I would implore, does not listen to his rumor mongers, these petty intelligence people over the Jennifer. What is the other name? Jennifer something. Bamturachi's type. She's the one who took all this fake information. So if the president has confidence in these people and these Uganda's fake intelligence operatives are not going to sell rumors there, We are hoping. It's very difficult to know. We don't have evidence about the future, so I can speculate. Then I can say, yes, it's possible. In fact, I want to come to you. It is very important for Uganda to have an airline. The problem with airline business is such a fragile business, because any small mistake, a plane falls out of the skies, you have 200 people dead. So it is heavily regulated. You have to be very careful how you handle the airline business. And I hope, therefore, that the president will allow, will appoint a board. Second thing, by the way, is a board. We need to disband the existing board of there may be 1 or 2 good people there, but it's a weak board. Jennifer has done all these wrong things with them there. Either they should have insisted on firing her, but then how can they insist when the president is the one who appointed her? So they were handicapped, but the board is weak. We need a new board, we need a new management team, and they need to be insulated from political pressures largely, and only one man can do it. That is Mr. Yoweri Kaguta Tebuhaburwa Museveni Akiki.
Thank you.